And we are live. Breakdown number 2 of 2 on Breakdown Wednesday here on Aaron the Dog MMA's channel. Aaron the Dog here with Lewis of Norton MMA for breakdown number 2 of the day. The UFC edition just completed the LFA 124 breakdown on the channel here with Lucky Locks as always. So that's here on the channel, so you can check that out anytime. I'll be adding timestamps here in a little bit. But in the meantime, we've got another breakdown to do here, and I'm thrilled to do it. It's the big one. It's a big one, I should say. UFC 271 live from Houston. Lewis, how you doing?
Yeah, not bad, man. I'm in my nice professional studio here of the ladder and the bookshelf behind me. But
I don't. No, yeah, it's
what a quarter of your LFA with Lucky Locks was good, man. I thought I agreed with pretty much everything you said in the final fight as well.
Yeah, it's definitely good LFA. We've got Showtime FC both on Friday here. So, and then fight week in Houston. Alec, I assume you're not going out, but if you are, let me know. Nothing like a UFC live. I went to, I think, 4 last year, so not going to the one this weekend. I'll be out in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, watching from there though. But yeah, either way, 15 fight card here. Gonna be getting a little stir crazy maybe at a few points in this, so bear with me. But we'll be covering all 15 of the fights last week. I didn't have my best week. I'll be honest. The 5 fights I think I got right, and they were like minus 300 type of odds and things like that. So not exactly my best showing. Carlston Harris did not beat Shavkat Rakhmonov, in case you couldn't tell from that one. Also, Barrio did not beat Chidi Ninjakuani. So I wasn't just missing. I missed hard on a few of these. So gonna recover, though. It's another week with the UFC here. Kind of an up and down pay-per-view card here. So what do you kind of think about the card overall? Yeah, what are your kind of opinions on this when you kind of see it top to bottom here?
To me, there's a lot of guys that the opening on the early prelims of Mike Mathetha is like these sort of guys no one really knows of, but I've seen in kickboxing over a few years. And like these sort of guys are going to make the early prelims really like worth watching for the hardcore fans. And then you get the main card with all the people that just flood in afterwards, the seat fillers. And it's not going to disappoint. I mean, I've had these 3 fights on my head, the 3 top ones for a long time now. And I keep going back and forth with all 3 guys. So it's exciting, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I think that, I think it's a little more of a sleeper prelims for sure. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it as always. So timestamps will be in the comments immediately following the fights here. But appreciate everybody joining us here. Yep, Manny's in the house, Alec in the house, Justin in the house. No problem, Justin, not giving out the address there. Thank you if you checked out the LFA breakdown also. The LFA breakdowns, frankly, have been getting quite a bit of traction on the channel, so it's definitely good to see. I'm trying to get those up even a little bit earlier for people, and I've had good results with them. So let's keep it going here with the UFC. But gonna watch tape on all the fights starting tonight. No problem. This can be a little prep for you, Alec. Hopefully we can help set you up.
Yeah, watch Mike Mathetha, mate.
Yeah, definitely Mike Mathetha, or also known as Blood Diamond. Mike Mathetha just makes you sound like you got a lisp. So Blood Diamond, much more intimidating. Taking on Jeremiah Wells in the first fight of the night. And what a banger of a way to get the fight night started out here, depending on how this fight goes. I think right off the bat, Mathetha has been really fun to watch tape on. He's a really unique striker. Not a lot of MMA experience. That's the thing that you can obviously see. 3-0, and went to a decision in his last fight. Was actually getting tagged up quite a bit in that fight against a guy named Dimps Gillies, who was 4-1 at the time, actually, with Eternal. So not, the highest level of competition, you could say. Faced faced a guy with no experience in Min Huang, where he got his rear naked choke. Both guys did not look like they knew what they were doing, and then a 1-2 fighter. So, I mean, he's getting launched into UFC here. Was originally supposed to face Orion Koski, which I think would have been a much more favorable matchup for him, because I think it would have been a pure striking matchup, and I would have kind of almost favored Mathetha in that fight, honestly. I think he would have kind of just tooled him up and taken it away here. With Wells, there is a possibility this ends up just being kind of a back and forth if Wells is a little too in love with the stand-up, but I think Wells uses his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, uses his wrestling in this one, and just has superior top control. Probably gets finished somewhere in the second round with ground and pounder or submission, I would think. But I think Wells everywhere is just significantly better in terms of MMA, other than just in a pure on the feet kickboxing bout. 9-2-1 for Jeremiah Wells here, Philadelphia. He is 35 years old, so the time's now. He had a really impressive fight against Warley Alves. It was kind of back and forth, honestly, but got the finish there in the second round. The Marco Smallman fight just really has a physical edge to his wrestling and everything. Blood Diamond's got to get the knockout early, or else I think it's a long night.
Yeah, I mean, if anyone hasn't seen Mike Mathetha Blood Diamond, that basically no one knows for sure his exact record. I couldn't find his exact record in kickboxing, but some articles were saying he's got over 100 fights. I managed to watch like 10 or 11 fights of his, and what you notice about him is his kicking game. His kicking game is phenomenal. He hides his high kicks really behind a big guard, and that's what worries me. His striking is so orientated around the 10-ounce and 8-ounce gloves they use in kickboxing that the 4-ounce gloves I think is going to be so favorable to Wells, because he blitzes in when he does go for the striking game. He has a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, so you're going to say, I'm going to fall back on that. I know Mike has a rear naked choke on his record against the guy who's 1-2, but
if you watch that fight, he literally rolls into the rear naked choke. It was crazy.
Yeah, the opponent was a bit, deer in the headlights as well.
He hasn't fought again.
Yeah, exactly. Even in a straight kick, like even a straight stand-up fight with 4-ounce gloves on, I still favor Wells just because of the guard. How much people use a defensive shell in boxing and kickboxing, and even Thai boxing to a stance. When I used to fight, you use the pads. That's literally what you do. You guard behind them. Whereas when you've got 4-ounce gloves on, anyone that's trained MMA or anything, there's just gaps everywhere. You're not going to be able to use the same guard. And if he relies on anything like that, I think Wells could even knock him out. I really do. Beating Warley Alves, I really rate Warley Alves. I think he's a great test for someone on their debut. And Jeremiah handled him pretty well. So I can't see him having too many problems with Mike. But the UFC must have seen something in him to bring him over that quick. So there might be something in him, but I don't think it's going to be enough to beat Jeremiah Wells. I think that's quite a hard matchup for him, actually, especially being a grappler. So, yeah, I think Wells with grappling is smart money here.
Yeah, and I agree. I mean, I'd see more of a ground and pound finish if he gets the KO, but again, a KO Wells bet probably will be a pretty decent odds on it just because he's facing the kickboxer. So, maybe take a shot on that. Justin pointing out that his DraftKings point parlay effed up with the first fight last week. Yeah, I also was convinced into Bondar pretty thoroughly by somebody on this show. So, it happens. Like, I have to take responsibility for my picks at the end of the day. Glad you didn't talk me into Blood Diamond this week. I'm feeling good about Jeremiah Wells as well. If I got brought up every time I talk someone into the wrong pick, we'd be here all night. So Ira Lukowski's mom would let you know when I picked against Ira Lukowski. But, unfortunately with the pick game, we do have to make picks. So it's not personal, but minus 235 for Jeremiah Wells, by the way. Plus 200 on Mike Mathetha. I could see some people seeing Blood Diamond, seeing the highlights and taking a shot on him. I do think Jeremiah Wells is a parlay piece at this price, 2-1 favorite, but I think for good reason. And then Visceral, how short notice is Wells? He was originally supposed to be fighting against Tim Means. I think he had a couple fights set up it was supposed to be the previous week. So he was in training camp for a fight already. I think he got this on about 4 4 to 6 weeks notice, but I also think this is short notice for Blood Diamond. So it's short notice for both guys, as far as I know.
See, I don't think that's too short. No, that's not too. They're in the gym anyway. That's not too bad.
Exactly. I mean, Wells was preparing for a fight, and Mathetha with City Kickboxing and everything clearly was in the gym getting ready. Also,
that is something to note. He is a sparring partner. He's a training partner of Israel's. So,
he is, and I mean, there isn't a training partner of Israel. Israel doesn't think isn't going to be a world champion. We learned that with Carlos Ulberg against Ninjuku when he said Ulberg was like the best striker he's ever had, and then we learned the hard way. But we'll get to Carlos Ulberg in a few moments here. Before that, though, we got a really, really high-level fight here at the bantamweight division. Douglas da Silva de Andraj, one of my favorite guys who's never going to fight for a title, but always I'm going to watch his fights, against Sergey Marazov. What's that?
He's a scary-looking man.
Dude, and he fights like a mini Vitor, and it's just great.
Yeah.
I love it. He really is just so fun to watch. 27-4. Crazy how good his record is for how crazy he fights, too, that he's so successful. 20 KOs in his 27 wins. 17-4 for Marazov. Kazakhstan on the rise, as we know, when I picked Carlston Harris against Shavkat Rakhmonov last week and was wrong on that. I'm going to bring it up more than any commenter does. So they can't, I guess. But 32 years old for Marazov, 32 and a half years old. Both guys a little bit advanced for the bantamweight division for sure. 36 and a half years old for de Andraj, although he appears to be aging in reverse, doesn't really get tired, doesn't, seem to be losing the power. Just overall, the Andraj seems to still be quite a force here. Marazov had the tough debut there against Usman Nurmagomedov. Got put away in the second round there. Really, Usman, not Usman, sorry. And then Khalid Taha in his last fight really handled him. The takedowns, the wrestling, the control was all there. Can take a really similar type of blueprint here, but I do think Douglas da Silva de Andrade is much better. For one, in the wrestling department, I think de Andrade is kind of ignored there a little bit. It shows up in some fights, I think, more than people want to give him credit for. I think a lot of people just put him as a striker, pure Muay Thai guy, a lot of power, flashy, either puts you away or you put him away, but got takedowns against guys like Chito Vera, last guy to really beat Chito Vera. He's a tricky, he's just at some point Father Time catches up, and that is kind of one of my concerns here, and he is able to get controlled at points in some of his losses. Marazov here is not going to be looking to trade. He's going to be looking to get in there and get the takedowns. I could see Marazov having some success early with the takedowns. And actually, even though de Andrade seems like the type of guy who slows down, I could see de Andrade taking the rounds as it goes here, because I do think Marazov is going to have to put a lot of effort into taking and keeping down de Andrade. It wouldn't surprise me if at some point later de Andrade even possibly goes for a takedown and gets it. So maybe I'm completely crazy. I'm way off here. I think it's a super close fight. Based on that, my call, I'm going to edge towards de Andrade. I think he's actually going to take a close decision here. And I think a lot of people think it's KO for de Andrade or a decision for Marazov. I actually think it's going to just be very close. I think that de Andrade is able to stuff the takedowns, make him work for the takedowns when he does get them, and get the better. I think has a significant edge on the feet, and I do think is able to mix it up more than people give it credit. So I'm taking a shot here on de Andrade. I like the experience, and I just don't think Father Time's quite there yet. He's also going against a guy who's nearly 33 himself in Marazov. So I do think that, they're at similar points in their career. I like the experience and everything. And de Andrade looked obviously very explosive in his last fight against Guantello Perello. But this is a very different fight here. I think he's going to be a little more calculated, a little more methodical, and kind of reserve the gas tank so he can defend the takedown. So I like the Andraj. I like him by a decision.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what you said. I think you rate his takedown defense a lot higher than I do, and that's why I really believe. I've been thinking about this fight for a while. I think Marazov is actually going to quite drown him grappling wise. I think he's going to frustrate the shit out of him to the point where he's too concentrated on being taken down that his offense is completely nullified. He throws his rhythm off. You see, when people are so worried about takedowns, they're just scared to strike because they're waiting for it the whole time. And I think that might be one of the things that happened here. I think you're pretty spot on with everything else. I think he's as an elite as you can get without breaking the rankings. But as soon as he fights someone that will break the rankings, he loses. Like Lerone Murphy pieced him, you know, and Lerone Murphy's now breaking into those rankings. You know, he's obviously a clinical striker, but that was
at 145 also.
Yeah, so I just
back at bantamweight.
Not an ounce of fat as well on Douglas Silva. So,
but he's never had trouble making the weight at either weight class either, though.
I know. I'm worried about the timing as well of his age, but I do think Morozov's just going to drown him. I think he's going to make it a very boring fight, which is how he wins the fight.
What do you think about Andraj? What do you think about Andraj possibly turning on the wrestling on his end at all? Do you think that's a possibility, or do you think there's just no shot at that and I'm crazy?
I think he'd have to fatigue Morozov quite a lot.
So like second or third round is when I would think. If he really works for those takedowns in the first round, I could even give Marazov the first round, not feel Andraj is out of the fight, depending on how hard he works for those takedowns. I get Marazov as a wrestler and a grappler, so he's going to have that stamina, but at the same point, it is all about how hard he has to work for those takedowns in the first. If he's not working for him, he's going to
every time they stand, Silva's going to be thinking, I've got to connect now, because if I miss, he's going to be in on my legs and I'm defending again. You know, it's literally striker v grappler here for me, but I do fancy Morozov by you crazy Brazilian wrestler.
I'm saying he's got good wrestling. Like I mean, he took down Chito Vera multiple times in that fight. Again,
but Chito's not known for grappling either.
Correct. So yep, you're right. I'm just saying he can go to it, but this is
MMA maths don't work, do they?
Well, no. But, I mean, we did see that, although, yes, it's Nurmagomedov, Marazov's defensive grappling, not my most impressive impression so far from what I've seen from the defensive grappling. So, just saying that could be a way if the striking isn't the route out for Andraj. But, again, he's got 31 fights. I think he's more well-rounded than most people will give him credit for. But the odds here, minus 200 for Marazov. Plus 170 on the Brazilian and Andraj. MMA locker room is major leg at minus 210 in Sergey. Fair enough. 15 fights. This is not going to be a major leg for me. But yeah, hey, appreciate you stopping by. Stick around, MMA locker room. You don't have to stop and go, but wherever you got to be, we'll be here later. But yeah, fair enough. First disagreement of the night for us. I got the Andraj. You got Sergey Marazov. A really good fight at 135.
By a boring decision.
Well, I am hoping for a good fight because, if it's an exciting fight, I haven't seen a boring Andraj fight yet. So it would be weird to see a boring. I'm not sure if he can do that. But if anybody can show it, it might be a guy like Marazov. And fair enough, there's a skill to making fights boring. And I will stand by that. Next fight, though. At 185, this one I think is, I don't know. I'll have to get to the end of the card, but I think this is the fight I've written down both guys winning the most of any fight on this card here. 185, Jacob Malkoun versus AJ Dobson. A big part of that is just like we don't know with these guys a lot yet. They're six fight guys for both these guys. I didn't use Jacob Malkoun's full name of Robert Whittaker's training partner, Jacob Malkoun. So now that everybody knows who that is, got it. 5-1, got decapitated by Phil Hawes on very short notice in his debut. And then came back in the next fight against Rasul Al Hassan. We thought we were going to see part 2 of the decapitation. He turned everybody on its head, used that wrestling, looked really good, really, just really composed in there, fought a very, very intelligent game plan, and got the decision win there. Moved to 5-1. We're still kind of learning about Malkoun, but 26 years old Malkoun has some boxing experience as well, but really does seem to have a decent wrestling game to him, and I like quite a bit of what I saw there. Came into the UFC listed at 6'2". He's now listed at 5'9", so that's interesting. Taking on the 6'1", 77-inch reach of AJ Dobson here, 30 years old, making his debut off the Contenders Series, Carlson Gracie in Ohio, as well as Immortals Martial Arts Center. Major training partner of Matt Brown, and others down there. Good, has a good corner. Has Mark Coleman in his corner, so former UFC champion. Really, really great guy to have in your ear. Super motivational and well. Good knowledge of the game. Overall, AJ Dobson, very exciting, well-rounded. Finished by rear naked choke finish of a 6-0 opponent on the Contender Series. Was really beating him up on the feet. Knocked out Kalen Hill, who was on the Contender Series, in 35 seconds. Other than that, not a huge, very high level of competition, but looked really good. Had a long amateur career before going pro as well. 30 years old, so making his debut a little bit later, but fights very composed, long straight punches there. I definitely think that I could see a scenario where AJ Dobson just kind of beats up Malkoun before he puts him away in the first round. I really could see that very likely. I could see Malkoun making it a little bit more boring. I've been back and forth on this one. I am going to side with AJ Dobson just ever so slightly. I think that he's athletic enough to keep this fight from being completely dominated on a wrestling perspective. I think he's got a little better gas tank than Al Hassan. He's also not as reliant on the kicks. He's more of a boxing centric striker, so I do think that will help with regards to the takedowns, being ready for the takedowns. He's got Mark fucking Coleman in his corner. He's going to be aware of wrestling. He's working the wrestling defense, I believe. And I think that Malkoun's going to be at the end of a lot of punches in this one. I don't know how good Malkoun is. I think he got pretty fortunate with Al Hassan. There's a certain Al Hassan that shows up on certain fights, and you're just like, who is this guy? And I do think Malkoun kind of got that. He did take it to him. He got the decision. But, again, Justin here kind of saying in his own way, Malkoun seems like a below middle-of-the-pack Bellator fighter. If he does not do the same game plan as the last fight, sure, why not? But the guy wins this fight, don't bet and fade him next fight. So, Justin, I think it's taking Malkoun there. And the money has been coming in on Malkoun. Dobson was a pretty significant favorite, and the money's been shrinking. I like Dobson, especially at the price now, nearly a pick'em price. I'm quite surprised on that. At pick'em, I'm taking Dobson, and I like him to get the finish.
Yeah, I can see where he's coming from with Malkoun, but to me, he's not convinced me even in his win. Dobson, yeah, the athleticism you said, that is spot on for me. He's just so powerful, explosive. He's got absolutely phenomenal blitzing movement for someone that throws planted overhand shots a lot. There's no way you will convince me not to bet on AJ here. I just think he's that new breed, and he's still early in his career, but he looks phenomenal for the level he is.
Yeah.
I can't be convinced that Malkoun will win. But
I think people are using a lot of MMA math here in their analysis of this fight.
Yeah.
And I don't think that Dobson has yet to show that he has gas tank issues that Al Hassan has repeatedly shown to have. There's Al Hassan's return to 185. And Dobson, again, I think Dobson's very focused here and, really, really earned it in his last fight. I like Dobson here. I like him
Especially
for
with
the
his
fifth.
boxing is crisp. His boxing is real crisp.
Yeah, and I can't believe this price. I can't believe it's gone down to a pick 'em. I believe Dobson opened at nearly a 2-1 favorite, if I'm not mistaken. And now, just a lot of people saw the Malkoun fight against Al Hassan. So, and AJ looked pretty mid, and Dana White, he got caught about 3 times. He did, but I don't know if Malkoun has shown he has that level of striking to show me he's going to catch him. And that fight was just kind of chaos from the beginning. I just don't think ever. You look at most of Dobson's fights, he's a little more composed and a little smarter. And I just looked at the highlights. Visceral saying, but yeah, I like Dobson here. I like the price as a pick 'em. And Malkoun, can kind of keep convincing, though. 26 years old, he is going to be getting better. He's training with Robert leading up to this one. So should be a really good fight. Next fight is at 205 here. This one's
this is a no-brainer to me. I want to see what you say though.
This is a no-brainer. Okay.
For me.
Okay. I mean, I think that this is the classic striker versus grappler. This is like a complete throwback. Carlos Ulberg being the striker here, City Kickboxing, taking on Fabio Cherant. I'm trying to be respectful here of Fabio. He is a friend of a friend's, the Water Buffalo out of Wortham, Massachusetts, training out of Lausanne, mixed martial arts. It's pretty plain and simple here. He can't stand with Ulberg. If he stands with Ulberg too long, Ulberg's going to put him away. Ulberg had 83 significant strikes landed in the first round of his first fight with Kennedy and Njoku, and 63 landed in the second round against Njoku, and then he gassed. And they kind of saw the gassing coming early. Here's the thing, I'm a little concerned after what you just said, but I just think Fabio has to go in there and just wrestle him, and just keep working him in the wrestling. And Ulberg is not able to keep it in his realm of the stand-up. I think he gets tired very quickly with regards to the gas, and if he's not able to knock him out early in the first round, I like Fabio here to either lay on him or submit him. I think this is live dog city here. You're crazy as hell if you're betting minus 250 on Carlos Ulberg. 2.5 to 1 favorite. That's nuts. I got Fabio by smothering.
Good. Yeah.
Thank God. Thank God.
Yeah.
I thought you were about to just tell me how. Yeah.
No, Ulberg could piece him to bits, but there's no way. If Fabio goes in there with the mindset of I've got ego, I'm going to stand and try. You're crazy. Because you can see the level difference. He has to use his size and his weight and his wrestling technicality,
which he's used against guys like Maidona, Mason. He's used it against world-class strikers before. Yeah,
it's going to be very hard to not get hit by any power shots by Ulberg, to be honest, because he is very good technically. But I just see him if this goes past the 6-7 minute mark, he's going to gas. He will gas 100%. I agree with everything you said. Thank God for that.
Okay, I was really nervous because Carlos Ulberg is a 2.5 to 1 favorite here.
I'm going with the Water Buffalo for me.
Yeah, I'm not betting this heavily. If you're betting Fabio Cherant heavily, you're crazy. But I'm taking a sprinkle at it because Cherant is a plus 215 underdog, and he's got to just use his grappling. And if he makes him work, Ulberg is going to get tired. Ulberg got tired doing what he's an expert in, which is striking. If you make him grapple, he's going to get tired. Cherant's beat some legit guys over in LFA. It has not looked right in the UFC so far. But, betting the fight to go a distance as a parlay piece, Sosa says. I think that I really think Cherant can get a finish, though. That's the thing. I'm not 100% positive because Cherant has a lot of very good neck attacks, a couple anaconda chokes of some good opponents. I definitely think by the second, third round, positionally, Ulberg's not going to be too on his pins and needles. So if Ulberg doesn't get the finish early, I actually like the fight to get finished inside the distance if I had to pick one of those props, if I'm being honest. So but yeah, Charant second or third round deck could go either way. Live bet on Charant might be a good idea because I could see Ulberg winning the first round, or if he does win, he wins in the first round, you get out free. But don't lose like a bankroll on Fabio Charant and Carlos Ulberg. Like, don't, guys, don't. Like, it's this one is for me though. Fabio Charant is a live dog, and I gotta take a shot on the live dog here. Grappler versus wrestler, I'm taking, or versus striker, I'm taking the grappler. Next fight up, yeah, absolutely. And then again, I just don't get how Ulberg is minus 255 favorite. That's nuts to me.
Because he's a highlight reel with his striking when he does land.
Yeah, but I mean, it's
highlights.
Like I think we saw a big hole in that. But next fight here, I had to like double check the card because I was like, this early on, really? We're putting Hanato Moycano versus Alexander Hernandez. Like, they really just like do not like Alexander Hernandez, I guess, because that's pretty rough. I mean,
well, at one point he was caught when he was beating up Brian Ortega for most of that fight, Yeah,
and then that went wrong, and then he had the main event against Korean Zombie, got knocked out in that. I'm just kind of I think it's kind of crazy that this is so early on. I think this is a really high level fight and pretty important for both guys' careers, honestly. That being said, I'm not a huge fan of either one of these guys, so I'll be honest. Alexander Hernandez just annoys me to no end, but he did knock out Beneil Dariush in like 30 seconds. So 29 years old, 5'9", 72-inch reach for the Factory X representative, taking on the former featherweight, now lightweight Hanato Moycano, 15-4-1. Similar types of records here, 32 for the Brazilian constrictor team, ATT. Moycano, I mean, when he gets beat, he gets, beat pretty thoroughly. Is coming off of a win in his last fight against Jai Herbert. Decent win there. Jai Herbert's kind of not looked all that great, but kind of did quell some of the chin issues and showed that he can kind of deal with a good striker there. But, I mean, put away Jai Herbert, good win there. Put away Hadzovic, those last couple wins, and Cub Swanson. Obviously, the decision win over Cater looks good, but losses to Ortega, Aldo, and Chan Sung Jung and Fiziev. So, like, very high-level losses here. It's just like my question with Moicano is really just the amount of that damage and the effect it continues to have. Moving forward in his career, I do like he's not cutting as much weight. At 155, I think it makes much more sense here. But I just think that with Hernandez, like, he doesn't have the most accurate striking. It looked good in that last fight against Mike Breeden, obviously. But, I think that, with regards to Moicano, he's just got so many better tools. I think on the feet, he's not terrible. It's just I'm worried about the chin. But I think, we see when Hernandez kind of takes that level up besides that short notice appearance against Beneil, how he ends up kind of looking. He gets kind of exposed. Moicano exposes a certain level of fighter. I think that's the level that Hernandez is at here. What Hernandez does do very well is he moves in and out with his striking really well. He's always moving, and I do think that if Moicano has trouble getting a hands on him, kind of getting a hold of him, maybe getting him to the ground, it could be kind of a tough for Moicano to find his footing, so to speak, on the feet. But what are your kind of thoughts on this? I think Moicano takes this one. I think he kind of works his overall game plan and gets a decision.
Okay. You could be completely right here. But what I'm worried about is, I know he's got weight. Hernandez is a big guy for the weight. Hernandez, he got stepped in a bit too early, got a bit too big for his boots when he fought Cowboy, if you remember, and Cowboy kind of schooled him. But in his last fight, I know it's against Mark Breeden, but he looked so fast. The pace he set on him from the get-go, literally out the gates, he's like a bull. And he just runs at the opponent. He's got very good hooks. He's got very good body shots. and he's in your face all the time. What Moycano needs is space and distance, and I don't think he's going to get that with him. I think he's going to be completely pressurized, and all the angles, he's going to run out of space, and he's going to have no choice but to take it to the ground. And if he can't get it to the ground, I think he will lose. So I am actually going to take Hernandez in this. I think this is the step up he needs. I think it's finally a big test he can actually pass. If he doesn't pass it, he will never make it to this main card again. Like, he will be a prelim fighter for the UFC days, because they're giving Moycano is a proper test. He's legit. If you beat Moycano, you are worthy of this, of a ranking in this division. You are a top dog, in my opinion, anyway. And I think to most fans, we really rate Moycano, which is why I'm putting a lot of pressure on my pick with Hernandez. I wouldn't bet it because I think the odds are a bit crap for it, for the risk you'd be taking here. But I do think I think Hernandez has all the tools to stylistically clash with Moycano, but it'll be tough. I think Moycano wins by mixing it up. He has to use all of his game. He's a martial artist. Hernandez lacks a lot of ground ability. He's a decent wrestler, but he's got no grappling and advancements. He's got no jiu-jitsu. In a sense, Moycano's got great neck attacks. So if he goes in for a double leg, if he goes in for a single, pins him against the cage, Moycano, I could see him snatching the neck, just rolling with a DAS. A lot of ways Moycano can win. There's only kind of one way I would say Hernandez can win, but I'm banking on that one way. So
sure.
I'm going
I think Hernandez can come out early and really blitz him and possibly get a first round finish. It would not shock me at all, honestly. I do think Hernandez needs to come out and push the pace right away. And I think often Moycano starts a little bit slow, is a little bit of a slow starter. We saw that with the Korean Zombie fight. We've seen it in a few of his fights. And I just think that with Hernandez, we have seen he slows down. I think that the Grutzmacher fight, great finish, the hooks, everything. The Breeden fight, great finish. But would he be able to piece that together for 15 minutes? Is he able to keep that pace, or is it kind of?
I think he could do it for 2 rounds. In that 3rd round, he's going to slow down dramatically. It depends how much damage he takes. I don't think Moycano has a chin. That's the issue.
Right, exactly.
I think so. If he starts getting,
can Hernandez find it with those loopy shots? Yeah. Alex looked great in his last fight. I agree, visceral. I think this is just. I think this is definitely one that seems like a lot of people are on Hernandez. Plus 140 in the odds, minus 160 for Hanato Moycano. So it is pretty closely lined there. We got our second disagreement. Totally fair there. And I think we'll have a few more on this card. Next fight, this one is, I think, really flying under the radar at bantamweight between 2 former Dana White Contender Series veterans in Ronnie Lawrence and Mano Martinez. This is an awesome fight. I don't know why no one's exactly talking about this, other than that Mano Martinez, his last fight against Guido Canetti, went to a split decision. And so it cooled a little bit of people on Mano Martinez. Couple things. Saul Solis had just passed away, their head coach at Metro Fight Club. Also Adrian Yanez's coach and many others down there. I think he had passed away the week before his fight. Mano Martinez ended up missing weight by 5 pounds for that fight also. And, I mean, it was just kind of one of those. Guido Canetti, yes, he's 41, but he's just a tricky guy who, if you're not on your absolute game, can make a fight a split decision, make a fight really close. I think that – but I think this is a really interesting fight. I've also loved what I've seen from Ronnie Lawrence, the Heat. Both these guys, young, 25 and 29. Ronnie Lawrence, it's the takedowns for me that I think are going to be a key for this one. He looked really good against Jose Johnson on the Contender Series there, and paired that up with a really good debut as well. The takedowns really are there. He's well-rounded, has good stand-up as well, good kicks. Yet to get a submission, but I do think he has submission skills. Vince Cachero got grounded pounded in the 3rd round. However, he had to pull out of 2 fights, one of which he had to pull out of with a bad weight cut. That's a huge red flag to me, really a big concern for me. If he is making the weight, how much is he sacrificing to make it down to that weight? How much is he cutting? How much is that affecting his defense here. I get he only has a decision loss over in Bellator, but Mano Martinez throws absolute missiles. He throws absolute power. He had a split showing up on, I just don't think his best night, and everything like that. I really like both these guys quite a bit. I think both these guys are going to have a lot of wins in the UFC's bantamweight division. I'm definitely going to wait to be making any sort of a decision on Ronnie Lawrence till I see his condition at the weigh-ins, how it looks. But I'm going to go with Ronnie Lawrence here. But I am nervous on this pick. I think Mano Martinez has a lot of really good tools, training with Adrian Yanez and others over at Metro Fight Club, and has really, really good finishing ability. And so definitely can be nervous about that with a guy in Lawrence who I think is cutting a lot of weight and everything like that, and is willing to kind of trade at points. But I think Lawrence is wrestling and just, again, overall MMA game plan. I'm saying that on a few picks so far. I like that for Lawrence again here, but I'm nervous on this one, especially when I see a 3-1 favor, because I don't think it's that wide.
Yeah, I think a lot of it. I'm in my head. I'm saying Ronnie makes weight no problem. Health wise, he's all good. That's the way I'm looking at my analysis. If I start implementing all that, I'm just going to pick Mano all day, and there'll be no there'll be no argument from me.
Yeah.
So Ronnie can dictate pace, I think, a lot better.
Yes.
He looked great as well in his debut. Really did to me. It's a real tricky one because I think this is a really good matchup. This is one I think the odds are stupid for this. I think Mano is way closer than a 3-1 underdog that I've got here in the UK anyway. It's a little silly to me, but I also am siding with Ronnie as long as the weight cut is good. If it's bad, this bet I would leave too late. If you see Ronnie on the scales looking awful or in any sense, I would bet on Mano if you are betting on this fight. It's a tricky one. Also, by the way, I just see in the chat as well, Justin Villegas. I think he's a bit upset about the analysis with Hernandez striking because he obviously rates. As someone that also rates Jai Herbert a lot in striking, he's saying so. You're using MMA maths again, sir.
Yeah, they're very different strikers.
He's definitely not a better technical striker than Jai Herbert. Jai Herbert's kickboxing is outstanding. As someone that's watched his whole career pretty much live, he's outstanding. They're just different, and that's why I think he's good.
Yeah, and it's like, again, I don't, it's, you look at the guys who are knocking out. Just to go back to that real quick, Moycano. I mean, not the most technical striker in Korean Zombie. It's the guys who throw off the rhythm and kind of go at a different type of pace with Moycano that really disturbs him. Moycano's got pure Muay Thai, so I think going against a guy in a more traditional striker, and Hernandez is not a traditional striker. So he upsets the pace, he throws it off. So that's where I'm at with that. And again, Lawrence is a -300, plus 250, and rising for Mano Martinez here.
I agree with Armchair. Armchair is completely right. This whole card is a bit of a mind melt with betting.
Yeah, I agree. So I'm going to leave that one be for the most part at that price. And just kind of move on here. Next fight, another one I'm not going to be betting too hard. Just a spoiler here. William Knight versus Maxine Gretchen. What the hell? Who the hell knows what's going to happen in this fight? I certainly don't. Maxine Gretchen, I was expecting kind of expecting a little more of coming over here from PFL, World Series of Fighting. Also, he fought there. 37 years old, though. It does kind of look like his father time kind of catching up. Missed weight by 5 pounds in his last fight. Ended up winning the first round 10-8, and then at least, in my opinion, a 10-8 first round. But either way, nearly put away Dustin Jacoby in the first round, and then completely gassed. Lost the last 2 rounds. Dustin Jacoby pressured him, even though Gretchen was outstriking him. It was Dustin Jacoby's pressure and pace that were the difference there. He put away Antigulov, who everybody can put away Antigulov after the first 90 seconds. Didn't get put away by Tybura, so props there. Took away Jordan Johnson's undefeated record over in PFL. Was pretty solid over in PFL. He's a big striker. He has a loss to Magomed Ankalaev in the 4th round back in 2016. So Otherwise, for the most part, keeps a good pace, pretty well rounded here. And it's just he's going up against William Knight. William Knight had a kind of a sloppy knockout in his last fight against Fabio Charant, which he could get away with. Dao Young, he turned into the best wrestler you have ever seen in that fight. It was pretty disturbing. William Knight wins this fight by pressure, I guess.
Who's going to gas first? That's all it is. William Knight,
Yeah.
I'm not sure it's William Knight because he uses his size and his physicality. It overpowers all technical skill set he has because I don't think his skill set's that good. I think he's just a specimen. Looks like a linebacker, doesn't he? He's ridiculous. If Grisham sorts his tank out, I think he's got it all day. I really do. I think he's miles above skill set wise. So I would be betting Maxime Grisham in this one, hoping that he's not going to unload the gas tank on William Knight. William Knight doesn't tend to have a high output. He kind of just, he does a Yoel Romero approach, a little blitz.
Yeah, backing up with the court, counter hooks. This is my least confident pick of the night here. I will say that much. Yeah. I'm not betting it. But yeah, I think most people are looking like they're going with Maxime here. I'm on my William Knight Island at plus 145. Not betting it at that price. Minus 170 for Maxime Grisham. Just don't bet it. Just pass on it, guys. This is not a great fight, to be honest with you. And the loser's cut, it might be one where the winner and the loser, probably not the winner and loser, but definitely the loser, I think, will be cut, especially if it's Grecian. But next fight here, I think, is a much better fight. We end with two flyweight fights, a men and a women's flyweight. First up is the men's flyweight bout here with Alex Perez making his return against Matt Schnell. This is a really high potential for entertainment bout here. I think it's can be really back and forth and close. And I don't know if I can bet the fight though. Maybe you can catch a live bet on Grisham if he gets rocked in round one. You don't want to bet Grisham. Just leave it alone, Armchair. Trust me. But yeah. Alex Perez, Matt Schnell here, 125, 24-6 versus 15-6. Matt Danger Schnell coming off of, I think, a fight that I went back and watched this. I personally thought he won against Bontarine. Was surprised.
So did I.
There. And Bontarine, not a bad fighter at all. We've seen him kind of stick around here, but kind of surprised the results there. I do think that, with Schnell, he has shown he's willing to get into a little bit too close to firefights at times, has a split over Nam. Often these firefights he's put away in. Pantoja, Sandoval, Rob Font, Tim Elliott. He's put away quite a bit, both by submissions and by KO. He's been KO'd quite a few times in his career. It's definitely a big concern of mine with him. He's a killer, be killed guy a lot of the times. Underrated grappling that he's not going to be able to use here. I think that with Alex Perez, top-level guy, only losing to the best so far. He was actually having quite a good run of it with Davidson Figueiredo in the first minute or so before the second minute. So rocked Davidson in that first minute and everything like that. And Davidson really turned up the pressure and put him away. And yes, there's levels to this. But before that, we saw the juicier Formiga finished with the leg kicks. And we saw the finish of Jordan Espinosa, Mark De La Rosa, pretty decent level when he takes that top level. Seems to have trouble, had trouble with Joseph Benavidez as well. I think this could be a little bit of a war. I think it could be a closer fight than a lot of people think. With Perez, it does come down to he dictates where this fight takes place at, and I think that's going to be a huge difference. I think he will mix it up on the feet at times, but I think the wrestling can be a really big difference for him in kind of keeping this fight where he wants to keep it. But I think Schnell's going to make it a dogfight. This one is kind of one that reminds me of last week with Peterson and Arosa, where I just don't feel it's quite appropriate to have Perez at the amount of favorite he is, but he should take it. But at the price, my only option would be to possibly bet the dog in match now. But I'm going to just pass on this one, and I'll take Alex Perez to get I'll take him to get the finish. But again, I think this is close, so wouldn't surprise me if it goes to decision. And in that case, it could get very interesting.
Yeah, I think it's a closer fight than people make it. I actually would put Matt Schnell in the same position as Alex Perez. I think he's one tier off of the elite of the group. I really do rate Matt Schnell a lot. I think he's got a full MMA skill set. He's a very good striker. He's got great knees, got a great clinch game, and he's great on the ground. He's a great grappler. So I could absolutely see him catching Alex in all sorts of tricky positions, even fighting off his back. He's got a great triangle on him as well. So I'm going to go with Matt Schnell in this one. I do think this could be fight of the night. Yeah, exactly. It is. I do think this could be fight of the night. This could be an absolute war.
Perez likes to go to war too. Like he does.
I'm going to take Schnell by decision though as well. I think it's going to be very back and forth. It could be controversial. I think it's going to be one of those so like Peterson and Erosa, so subjective. Who do you favor more? Or do you think landed more damage? Was it a cleaner shot? All subjective opinions. So
I don't like betting fights and getting them wrong and talking about like enjoying my bet. But my bet on Peterson last week, I don't regret at all because that's exactly why Erosa at that
400.
He was minus 350 or something like that. Right. Like either way, it's just a guy who fights like Erosa did. It's exciting, but feel a third finish possibly. I think this fight most likely doesn't go to the distance, but I don't hate the decision either. So I think it's a really good fight, possibly fight of the night. And actually a lot more relevant to who our next possible contender to the contender could be than I think a lot of people realize. So just kind of a state of the division in general, but could be a really important one. Perez minus 400, crazy to me. Schnell at plus 315 I'm seeing. I think it's worth a shot. Passing on as of now, but to be determined if I take a shot on that one. Get to the featured prelim here. A fighter who everybody has gone on the train of. I really was on the King Casey O'Neill train early on, though. Interviewed her before she was even signed with the UFC. And I remember saying, I think you're going to get signed by UFC without a Contender Series fight, even though she was 2-0 at the time. And I think you're going to go on a run through the division once you get signed. So far, so good. 3 fights, 3 finishes, looking outstanding. Yes, Shayna Dobson not amazing, but still Shayna Dobson, a veteran who exposes Agapova and others. And, I mean, it's just what O'Neill's been able to do with these fighters. Procopio looked really good in that fight. I mean, King Casey O'Neill named it aptly, 24 years old, Extreme Couture representative here, 8-0, taking on the 25-19 Roxanne Modafferi. Veteran, pioneer of the sport, taking on the new blood here, Extreme Couture representative. She's been a finisher so far inside the UFC of Procopio, Antonina Shevchenko, and Dobson. Ground and pound, mostly rear naked choke of Procopio here. I think that this fight with Roxanne Modafferi, she should be able to have pretty much no problems with Roxanne, I'll be honest. She puts on a pressure that unless she tears her knee like Macy Barber did, where she just can't start to move forward, and Roxanne's able to pressure and overwhelm with awkward stand-up and whatnot, I think that Roxanne's been shown she can be dominating the wrestling and grappling at points. I think on the feet, King Casey's miles ahead here. Unless King Casey is just completely unfocused and turning and just falling in love with being a superstar and things like that, and forgetting where she came from and being, I think she just, this is one of my most confident picks of the night. King Casey, plain and simple, gets the finish.
This is 100% the easiest pick of the night. Yes. I adore Roxanne Modafferi. I think most people do. Mm-hmm. She's the ultimate pioneer. She's the who's who. She's been there for however many years now. So the record says it all. But Casey's going to destroy her. There's no other way about it. She's going to dictate the pace. She's going to put the pressure on. She's got the finishing ability. She's got power.
Roxanne's engaged now. Like Roxanne wants to become a teacher. She's happy. This is not a.
She just likes to fight. She just likes to fight. She doesn't care if she wins or loses.
What a brutal retirement fight to have here.
She's probably not even going to stop. She'll come back.
She's done now. This is it, I think. I really do.
Yeah. The UFC will just release her for her own sake after this, but thank her for all her, what she's done. But Casey's going to dictate every part of this. She'll finish her wherever she wants, and she will finish her.
Justin here. Ever since my girl saw Roxanne win us money on the McGregor Cowboys, she can't stop going for Roxy. I get it. Try to convince her otherwise. Unless someone pokes Casey with poison backstage. Yeah, exactly. Like, unless it's clearly
even then, I think she'll still win.
Yeah. I mean, I do think at some point Casey's going to have kind of that setback before she gets to full top here. I just don't think it's right here. I really don't. I think she's going to be pretty ready. I will say Roxanne training over at Syndicate, training with very good female training partners. She's very technical and very offbeat on the feet, very technical on the ground. So there's a chance, but yeah. Not much. Minus 400 for Casey. This is a minus 400 I would put in a parlay. I think this is a much more likely minus 400 than our last one in Perez. So, Casey is on the featured prelim for a reason. She is definitely a star. And, we're just seeing kind of everybody fall in love with her. Let's just hope she's not in love with it. And actually, it's not the featured prelim because our featured prelim is a really weird heavyweight fight. Which, I guess you can say about a lot of heavyweight fights. I do say it a lot about a lot of heavyweight fights. Andrei Arlovsky, God, I think they're trying to get him records here because he is set up with Jared Vandera here at heavyweight. I'm a little bit shocked here that this fight is so high up. But I'm glad to see Andre's not getting, put in there with like an Aspinall again for a while. Put him in there with a guy in Jared Vandera who, yes, he's 29, but honestly, I put the athletic edge with the 43-year-old and Andrei Arlovsky here. 43, I said.
Carlos Condit there, doesn't he? Looks like Carlos Condit in that picture.
Yeah, he definitely does. 43 years old for the Belarusian here. 6'3", slight reach disadvantage to Vandera. Vandera, the mountain here, cuts to 265, fights out Team Quest. He's 12-6. He's not looked all that impressive to me so far. He's coming off of a loss against Alexander Rakhmonov, where he was ground and pounded. Not going to be the issue here with Arlovsky. He did beat Justin Tafa and Harry Hunsucker in his 2 fights with the organization. Called out Sergey Spivak and got absolutely just dismantled in that fight. Again, it was ground and pound, though. I just think Arlovsky, at this point in his career, he's really changed how he fights. He's very, very composed, 32-20. So that is just a crazy record. But decisions over Sherman and Felipe in his last 2, I just think this is an automatic Andrei Arlovsky decision for me. I think he uses movement, uses his counter striking, uses his superior gas tank here, uses his superior IQ, and cruises to a decision. People are betting on Vandera here, and I'm scratching my head. I don't see it. I don't see it.
He showed he still got it when he beat Boza. Tanner Boza was legit. He looked really good in his fights coming up to Arlovsky, and I had Tanner Boza all day in that, and Tanner Boza just fell apart. Aspinall, I'm putting to the side because Aspinall's phenomenal. He's the next generation to me, especially as an Englishman. But
this guy's just like a Chase Sherman, just like a Carlos Felipe, just like a Felipe Lins. He's a fraud.
And the other guy's only Tuffer and Hunsucker. Tuffer, it can't even make the weight, first ever. And Hunsucker, everyone beats. It's there's no question. This and Casey O'Neill should be in everyone's parlay, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think Andrei Arlovsky is a fantastic parlay piece here. If you're betting Vandera, I'm very, very confused why. And a lot of people are. The price is coming in. The money's coming in on Vandera here. People are like, Andrei Arlovsky has chin issues. They just still want to say that, even though it's kind of been dispelled for quite a while here. And then
Tom Aspinall said afterwards he couldn't knock him out in that first round. So instead of tiring himself out, you went, I'm just going to choke him. And he choked him instead.
Right.
He was smart.
Yeah.
He's not
exactly.
that hard. He's not that easy. Just because Jairzinho Rosenstruik can do it doesn't mean everyone can.
Right. And it's like a few like fighters like that. It's just, I don't know. I think, Arlovsky by 1 million. We should be buyer beware. That is from Steve, who's 0-7 on his picks. So maybe just stay away from Arlovsky, Steve, because he's mine. I mean, and Jared Vanderaa isn't even an up. He's still being up and covers with ease. And Vanderaa isn't even an up and cover. Put Vanderaa in there with Tanner Boser. Tanner Boser destroys Vanderaa, destroys him. Put Carlos Felipe in there with Vanderaa. Carlos Felipe will win because Carlos Felipe doesn't destroy anybody. I mean, Andrei Arlovsky here, -140. I love the price. -140 with Casey O'Neill right there. That's an even money double up right there. Also, I think that Arlovsky with Wells is a good double parlay. Arlovsky, Wells, and Dobson. I've like Arlovsky in a few spots here, so could be my apple pie share of the night. I like Arlovsky by decision here, though. I think it's like a Caitlin Jakagian decision.
All right. On to the big boys.
Yep. Off of the heavyweight fight, onto the main card here. I really do like this fight to start out. The main card here, Bobby King Crean taking on Nasrat Haqparast, who's still only 26 years old. Did you know that? Because I didn't. I thought Nasrat was older than that at this point. But, yeah, still only 26 years old. Kind of still the same guy as when he came into the UFC, I'll be honest. He hasn't really evolved too much as a fighter. He blitzes, throws the hooks, well-rounded, but for the most part looks to kind of go in there and trade, and facing a guy in Bobby Green who – coming off of that Ali Quinta fight, that was a weird fight, I'll be honest. It seemed like Ali Quinta didn't want to fight. That's one of my concerns here is that I hope Bobby Green isn't getting too overconfident from that knockout against the guy in Ali Quinta who seemed to have both feet out the door and into his realtor business. But, 28, 12, and 1, 41 fight veteran here for the 35-year-old and Bobby King Green. As I said, the knockout of Ali Quinta, rebounding off of those 2 decision losses. In the third round, really was taking it to Fiziev quite a lot as well, and so I think just Bobby Green, he's really started to look much better. He's still going to the decision a ton, but the decisions are becoming much more much more one-sided, I would say, not quite as close. The Lando fight, good example, the Alan Patrick fight, beat a guy in Clay Guida who we've seen how good Clay Guida's been looking lately. So it made it look pretty easy in that fight. With this fight, I just think that Bobby Green's a little straighter, little straighter, more accurate, more technical, and just better overall defensively than Nasrat. And I just think it's going to be a decision in this fight. Either way, I would bet the decision. I agree with Steve here, -190, and the decision's a good bet. But yeah, I'm going to take Bobby Green here by decision. I just think that he's a little better technically, and I just think that he is gonna. I just don't know if Nasrat I don't know if Nasrat should be in the UFC yet. I hate to say it. I really like him, but he just seems to need to develop and progress a little bit overall in his skills, and it's not quite happening. So you kind of know what to expect coming into his fights. I think Green's going to be ready for it. A lot of head movement, shoulder rolls, and just that jab. I think he's going to stick that jab in Nasrat's face throughout the night.
Yeah, I think what wins it for him is the activity he throws. Even though he lost against Fiziev, it was, the amount he threw in that fight. Fiziev was just a bit sharper and, landed the cleaner shots. Moises, again, he was super competitive for the fight. He wasn't getting wiped through any of these fights.
A lot of people think Green won that fight against Moises.
Yeah, there you go. And the Fiziev one, I scored a draw. So it's, he's super exciting. He's still got the skills. He's got better with age. He likes to fight regularly, and that's when he's happy. He's still fighting regularly, which is great. I'm not. I don't think Nasrat isn't worthy of the UFC. I definitely think he's worthy of the organization. I just think, I think you're spot on. He hasn't evolved from when he was 23, 24 when he came in. Into the UFC. You know, he had so much hype coming from TriStar, being like the protege for us and GSP. GSP ramping him up all the time as well on social media. I think it's kind of hurt him a little bit. You saw his skill set when Dan Hooker just tore him to pieces, and that that's he just didn't even get touched by Nasrat in the whole fight. So I've got Bobby Green winning the decision. I think he can win 2-3. He could probably win a unanimous, to be honest with you. So all 3 rounds. I'm going to go with Green as well.
Yeah, and this is another one. I think Green, Arlovsky, and Casey O'Neill is a great little triple to start, or end the prelims and start the main card with. Bobby Green minus 135. Pretty surprised the odds are nearly a pick'em here. I think that I could understand a year or so ago with Green and some of his decisions how they make you nervous, but I think he's making more of a clear stance that he's winning these fights. We saw like the Green Jakar closed fight way back in the day where Green was really winning that fight, but it kept it just so much closer than he should have. He's kind of breaking those habits here. I don't think Hasbrat has a route to victory other than the stand-up either. I don't see him implementing the wrestling. I think Green has an underrated defensive wrestling game anyways, so I think if anybody wants to take it elsewhere, it's Green. Otherwise, on the feet, I still think Green wins a decision. So minus 135, I think it's really good value. I like Green in this spot quite a bit. Plus,
that awkward style where he has his hands so low as well. So
exactly.
You can't even see
yet so sound defensively still. Plus 115 on Hasbrat there to start out the main card. I'll give it credit. The 2 that are outside the main 3 on the main card, they're not the most important with regards to position or contenders status, but they are pure excitement here. Next fight here at bantamweight, Kyler Phillips, really exciting guy, and Marcelo Rojo, who Rojo is just a wild man. No other way to really describe it. Pure animal. I think the first round of this fight could be round of the night. We'll see how the rest of the fight goes if it doesn't end in that first round, because I could see both guys have an issue of kind of slowing down as the fights go on because they put too much into the early. So it might be who just gets the better of the other in the first round here. But Kyler Phillips and Marcelo Rojo. I know I said another fight a few fights ago reminded me of the Peterson and I was it the Perez Schnell fight? Yeah, I said that reminded me of Peterson and Rosa. This fight also reminds me of Peterson and Rosa because I saw the odds. Kyler Phillips is a massive, massive favorite in this spot. Minus 400 over Rojo. I'm shocked. I'm really, really shocked by that. We saw Rojo take a very short notice featherweight debut there against Charles Jourdain. Had some great success in that fight. Got put away in the 3rd round, but that's against a pretty large featherweight in Jourdain. I think we've seen Rojo put some really entertaining performances together on the regional scene. And I'm excited to see how he looks at bantamweight. Fights on Entrim Gym, that is Moreno's gym. It's been on a little bit of a skid lately, besides my boy Michael Morales. But I do think that he's going to have all of the gym behind him. He's the only one fighting from that gym this weekend. Again, on the regional scene, had a close loss to John Castaneda. We saw how he looked. That was a war on Combate, actually. Put away Jesse Strader, who made the UFC. He's put away guys. He puts them away pretty violently. Throws a lot of volume. So does Kyler Phillips. Kyler Phillips also mixes in the wrestling. They both slow down. I think this is a really close fight. I think technically Kyler Phillips is better in just about every area. So I'll edge Kyler Phillips, but these odds are absurd. Like absurd.
Yeah,
cannot touch it.
They're absurd. I would understand them if he beat Paiva and didn't gas after 5 minutes.
Right.
He gave everything and he threw everything at Paiva and couldn't finish him. If he could keep that pace up for 3 rounds, he would be unbelievable.
He can't. No one
Can't
can.
do it. He needs to slow down a little bit and pick his shots a little cleaner. He's crazy, but he's super technical and super brilliant. Kyla definitely should be the favorite in this, but the odds are a bit crazy. I have Kyla winning, but I hope he's learned his lesson from that Piver fight, because Piver I do not rate. I think he's got an overrated record. I thought it was a complete mismatch putting him against O'Malley and Phillips, and then all he had in that fight against Phillips was a gas tank. So it's Phillips to me is so much more dynamic. His striking comes out of different angles that you can't even, Rojo's not even going to see coming. He's got a great ground game as well, and he's young. He's developing. He's got to have improved against that from that last fight. That's the win or you learn kind of mentality. That Piver fight, he could probably say in his head, "Well, I was kicking his ass anyway. I lost. The gassed." So it's one of those moments. I've got Phillips. The odds are crazy, so I'd stay away from betting, because I would never bet on Rojo in my life.
Yeah, minus 425 plus 325. Yeah, I'm just sitting back and watching this one. But this one, again, like if Kyler doesn't quite fight reckless, he just becomes, because of his gas tank, a little bit unreliable as the fight goes. But Rojo doesn't exactly speed up as the fights go either. Rojo needs a lot of early finishes, it seems. So, yeah, I think Kyler Phillips should be able to take this one. But minus 425, crazy. I believe he's the biggest favorite on the card. A little bit confused there. But going to move on to the first of our two bantamweight fights. This is between the two mid-30s guys who've just kind of made their journeys through MMA, and part of what makes MMA pretty amazing. Jared Cannonier, the Killer Gorilla, hopefully can do better than the Vanilla Gorillas have been doing in Witt and Sherman, taking on Derrick Brunson. Derrick Brunson, just my dog. I just love him so much. He's been so reliable for me on this journey up. But, is this the spot where the kind of the storybook rise ends? The Sanford MMA representative Derrick Brunson, 23 and 7, 38 years old. He stated that he wants to fight 2 more times and then retire. So he wants this fight and then a fight for the belt, and to go out with the belt. I think fighting out Sanford is a beautiful marriage for him. 38 years old, 5 straight wins. Last beat my boy Darren Till by rear naked choke. We cleaned up there. That was an easy one. Plus 130 underdog. Thank you. Before that, underdog against Kevin Holland, cleaned up there. Before that, underdog against Edmund Shabazian, cleaned up there. So, and then he had a wins over, honestly, I think his first 2 wins are more impressive than his last 3. Eliza Theodoro, that decision was really impressive to me, because I only say this because he was able to dispel a lot of the reckless and kind of the cardio rumors that kind of plagued him from his losses early on. And then Ian Heinisch, again, Ian Heinisch is going to keep a certain pace throughout the 15 minutes. He doesn't gas. And Brunson, it's just a little better. And I think Darren Till is terrible. Did what he needed to do. And
Darren Till would lose Theodore.
No, he wouldn't.
No.
But either way. And then Kevin Holland, I just think there's a very clear way to beat those guys, and that's kind of what I mean. And now he's up against Jared Cannonier. I think this is going to be a very, very tough fight for Brunson, if I'm being honest. The Killer Gorilla, 14 and 5, albeit, he has a loss to Sean Jordan at heavyweight, now fighting at MMA Lab, 37 years old, so 37 versus 38, combined age of 75. Wins over Anderson Silva, David Branch, and Jack Hermanson. Haven't aged the greatest in Kelvin Gastelum. His only loss coming by decision to Robert Whittaker. I just think that Brunson's going to have a lot of trouble in this fight. I do think that he's going to try to use the wrestling. I'm just not sure he's going to be successful in that. And then on the feet, I just think that Candenier is going to really eat him up with the leg kicks. Eventually, I think Brunson's going to start to get a little bit impatient, expose the chin, and I could see Cannonier putting him away somewhere in the 2nd or 3rd round, honestly. Otherwise, this kind of could be a war for 3 rounds. Both guys are so good. But I just think that Brunson, I think the streak ends here. I hate to say it. I wanted to take Brunson. I really did, but I can't. I got to take Candenier. I think the leg kicks, and I think the takedown defense.
If this was 5 rounds, I would take Brunson. And that is just because if you look at the 3rd round of all of Jared's fights, he's getting tired. The style hitting the pressure he puts on people. I call him the ultimate plodder. Doesn't use lateral movement, doesn't dart in and out. He just stands there, stands heavy on that lead leg and throws those power kicks and the power shots over the top. But he's so technical while he throws them. They're not just looping, they are precise. There's a check left hook he likes to throw as well to the body. And it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Brunson, to me, isn't... I know he's a great takedown artist. He's a great grappler. He's a great wrestler, right? Mm-hmm. But the beauty in Brunson, to me, isn't the takedown itself. It's the holding them down. It's how good he is at just smothering someone and just pinning them there. The way he pinned Shabazian, I know he's not a grappler. Kevin Holland's not a grappler, and Till isn't a grappler.
Right,
but
exactly.
They get up. They didn't even... They all broke... He broke them all. Mm-hmm. You saw Till in that round, gave him his neck. He was like, he wanted an out. He just couldn't do it anymore. And that's what Brunson does to people. He is not going to do that to Jared Cannonier. Jared Cannonier's takedown defense is very, very strong. He's a lot bigger. He's one of the biggest guys Brunson's ever going to face. He's got a great center of gravity. Honestly, the stance he takes so heavy on that lead leg is going to make it. Jared's going to be basically defending single legs the whole night, if anything, because Brunson ain't going to stand with him. There is no way Brunson is rocking him on the feet or exchanging because of the power of Cannonier. Even Gastelum's got great movement and great boxing. He got clipped so many times by Jared. Like, these power shots are so dangerous. I can't see any way Brunson can win unless he fatigued Jared, and I don't think 3 rounds is enough to do it.
Yeah, I think it's a really great fight. Whoever wins this deserves their shot for sure. Yeah. And let's see, Justin saying, when Aaron the dog makes noises, the dog of the weekend wants every fight, so it looks like it's Brunson. Yeah, Turk's got Brunson. I got Cannonier, although, it's one that I'm not sure if I'm going to bet or not, just because I'm a huge Brunson fan, and so for me, I'd like to be wrong, but my official pick is going to be Cannonier. It's going to be by decision, but Turks again. He's speaking up for Cannonier. -170, or I got Cannonier. Sorry, Cannonier by decision, not Brunson. Brunson +145, Cannonier -170. I think that's completely fair.
Yeah,
and it's very tempting when you've gotten a dog in Brunson 4 straight times to go with him a 5th here because he wasn't an underdog against Theodorou. But yeah, winner gets a title shot unless as he loses.
Winner's getting a title shot. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm not sure who the official backup is if one of these guys doesn't make. If Whittaker doesn't make, but yeah, Whittaker's gonna make. So what are we even talking about? Next fight, the co-main event. Hopefully this is a fight of the night candidate, or else we're in a lot of trouble here. Derrick Lewis taking on Tai Tuivasa. What can we really say about this fight? It's going to be 2 guys getting in there, throwing down. Neither one's going for a takedown in this fight. The fight's not going to hit the ground unless it's leading up ground and pound. And even so, I think if one of the guys does go down, we're going to see the other guy step back and call the other guy to the feet. I think it's going to be finished by a KO on one side or the other. I personally don't want to really bet this fight. It feels like it's being set up for Derrick Lewis to fail in his hometown in a way for me. Like, it feels like a trap. It feels too easy. My official pick is going to be Derrick Lewis by KO. But something feels trappy about this.
Oh, mate. There is no only thing Tai has on him. He doesn't have power over Derrick Lewis, not a chance. Doesn't have size, doesn't have experience. He's fought the only person that's like that level that he fought was JDS and how that turned out. So
yeah.
Tai Tuivasa is I love him to bits, and he's one of those guys that gets promoted highly because of his personality, not because of his skill set. I really like. It's the only thing people can say about him is he's got the speed, which he absolutely does. Never works against Lewis. He got speed. Daukaus had speed, had that workout, and the low kicks. Exactly. But as soon as he steps with a low kick, he's going to be in range for those power shots, and that's the issue. Derrick Lewis is going to land one power shot on him, and it's going to change Tai's life. This is easy for me because it's easy. I don't know why Tai, but the odds are closer. That like I'm putting a lot.
The odds are close. Yeah, the odds are so close here.
Lewis has easily
-180 for Derrick Lewis, Tai Tuivasa +160. And it's in his hometown. Like, it's in Houston. He's only lost, I think, once in Houston. Derrick has. I agree.
Yeah.
So
I think v Tai Tuivasa would have been the next step for Tai, not shoving him straight to Derrick Lewis, who only loses to the title contention.
And I mean, again, Derrick Lewis preparing for another quick striker. He's really not having to shift too much of his focus here from the docket's preparation.
He should put all your parlays, Derrick Lewis on all of them.
Yeah, so I mean, it really does look like so far. I think that leading up to the main event, you could parlay the first 4 fights with I believe the favorites, and you would be in good shape.
Great.
Yeah. So, it is interesting here. I did say the first 4 because I don't want to give away our picks for the main event. I'm not necessarily picking Robert Whittaker, not necessarily not picking Robert Whittaker. But
so different.
We've approached the main event of the evening. This is definitely one of my most anticipated rematches ever here in Robert Whittaker against Israel Adesanya. I've gone back and watched that first fight quite a bit. I think I've watched the lead up. I've watched the lead up to the first fight quite a bit. I've watched the weigh-ins. I've watched the press conferences. I've watched and you can just see throughout the week how stressed Robert Whittaker is for that fight. You can see how on edge his jaw, his eyes, everything is just going nuts. And then that's how he fought in the fight. He was being so reckless. And it wasn't just a moment like with the Till fight where he had a moment of recklessness. It was just the entire time he was running into the fire until he got shot. And finally, second round, gets put away, and then goes on a run, man. Robert Whittaker, 23-5, 31 years old, younger than Israel Adesanya. I don't know if people know that Israel Adesanya is 32. I think most people think Israel Adesanya is 25. But, Whittaker is younger here at 31 years old. But both guys in the primes of their career, middle of it right now. 23-5, 3 straight wins for Robert Whittaker since the loss to Israel Adesanya. Had pretty much a clinic other than the one elbow from Till in that fight. Again, really, really solid decision over Jared Cannonier. And then Kelvin Gastelum looked just pretty much Kelvin Gastelum just didn't touch him in that fight. Whittaker looking much more composed than earlier on in his career. Obviously, we've seen the decisions as of late. But I just think that, this fight with Israel Adesanya is going to be a much different fight than the first fight. I don't know if that means that Robert Whittaker has enough to close the gaps and win this fight, however. I think what it might mean is that he's able to take it into the kind of the deeper realms of the fight. I can see this being a 3-2 close type of fight. I'm not talking too much about Adesanya because we know what Adesanya does at this point. He's got very good takedown defense when he's not at 205 pounds, which is huge here. Divisions matter. He is not a light heavyweight. He never is going to be a light heavyweight. He is a perfect middleweight, though. The size he is, the amount of, he is just a perfect middleweight. He is so strong, moves so well, strikes so well. I just think that this is a very close fight. We're going to see 2 rounds for one guy, 3 rounds for the other guy. I do not see either guy finishing the other one in this fight. I really think over 3.5 at -165 is a completely good call. I think this goes all 5 rounds. I can see it being either guy's fight. I think it takes place. I think that Whittaker does get takedowns at times. I think that Adesanya gets up. I think it's going to be close. I think it's going to be 3 rounds to 2. I think this is a classic. I am edging, and I'm going to side with Robert Whittaker here. I don't think he just relies purely on, making this wrestling only. I don't think that he's going to be – I don't think that on the feet that he's able to, completely compete here. But I think he's able to compete enough to make this more of a pressure fight for Adesanya. Control, maybe this. I just think it's about who gets the center of the cage often, whose back is to the cage. It's just there's a lot to consider here. I think Whittaker's wrestling is good enough to at times work, but I don't think he's going to be able to jam Blachowicz him necessarily, and nor do I think Whittaker thinks that. I think Whittaker knows he has to compete in the stand-up. I think he knows he's going to have to trade at times, and he's going to have to be more sound defensively. I do see Adesanya taking a decision, but, I think either way, it's a decision. I think it's close, and with the odds here, I'm a Robert Whittaker fan. I believe he's been focused on this Adesanya fight since he lost it. I think that's why we've seen the evolution in this game, and I think that Saturday night we see it all put together to set up a trilogy fight for them eventually in Australia, where it should be, or New Zealand.
Yeah, I'm 51-49 on this fight. I go back and forth so much. It's so close because what we're going to see is either Israel Adesanya dominates him again, even for 5 rounds, could just school him every single round. Robert's definitely going to have to implement a takedown game, but he hasn't got a 40-pound advantage like Yan had.
Right.
Yan weighed in at 230 odd pounds on the fight night. He didn't walk around.
Reach disadvantage, and such a reach disadvantage for Whittaker too.
Was it 6.5 inches or something? 7 inches. It's massive, isn't it? Yeah. And it's such an uphill fight for Whittaker, but he's been here before. His ego got the better of him. He was one of those guys like Rose, where he said the belt was weighing on him so much he was relieved. It's one of those sort of things. Kind of lost motivation for the sport. When he did come back, he looked great. He ran onto a Darren Till elbow. Happens. We lost 1 round. He won 4. I don't. People who said Till, that was close. I disagree completely. I thought he dictated everything in that fight.
Yeah, it's 4-1 at best.
He dictates Cannonier like that. Gastelum, he dealt with Gastelum, or the same way Till did actually. Just he couldn't get touched. And you see how stylistically, I think Israel has all the things to just dominate a Robert Whittaker. But it's a head and heart because I love Robert Whittaker to bits, and I really want him to win. So I'm trying to think of everything in my head that he can do to win.
Me too, and I will say that I will be the first to admit that.
Yeah, so my head's going Israel Adesanya wins a clear-cut decision. My heart goes Israel's going to lose a decision. I think it's going to be a decision fight. I think I hope it is because I want to see 5 rounds of these boys. It's just such a big event to me. This is Brock Lesnar Frank Mir 2 in my head. This is an old school double, and I want it to be a trilogy. I want it to be a Chuck Randy kind of moment, But yeah, I think most people are picking.
Yeah, it's a great fight. It's just and then we have Hola desde España. Hey, how's it going? Hello, Alejandro. Hola. Thank you for joining the breakdown. We're international here, so we accept all here. Yeah, I mean, for me, it is a little bit of a heart pick. I'll admit, from when this fight was announced, I had Robert Whittaker, started to think about it more and more, and then I had Adesanya, and now I've, kind of thought about it a little more, felt about it a little more. I just got a feeling Robert Whittaker pulls this out. I feel that he's coming into this fight the more composed of the two. I think that there's a lot of pressure on Adesanya in this fight, actually, a lot more than, maybe. I feel like the pressure is kind of reversed here.
Pressure a lot better, though. He suits the fame, doesn't he? He suits the popularity, whereas Robert kind of as you said, he gets a bit nervous, he gets a bit wrecky. So
yeah, but it's like, it's probably the best fight that can be made. It's definitely close, Steve.
Yeah.
And it's here. And I mean, Robert Whittaker, he's going in under the radar here. Minus 270 on Israel Adesanya, plus 235 on Robert Whittaker. My decision's made. A plus 235 Robert Whittaker. I'm betting against anybody in the middleweight division, including the champion Israel Adesanya. So I am taking Robert Whittaker by decision. Your pick is Israel Adesanya by decision?
Robert. 51% Robert.
All right. He's going with Robert. He's going with the heart here.
I want the trilogy. I want the trilogy.
We all want the trilogy here. So, and let's go ahead and hit the odds makers up here. But that's going to do it for the countdown. Before we take off, just give our quick picks and then we'll sign off here. But Norton MMA doing their thing. Lewis, tell people kind of about what's new on the channel, what's coming up on the channel for you as we come into our quick picks here.
So on the channel, we got all the predictions, guys. If you want to see some of the predictions from this as well, there are on the channel a bit more in depth. My Derrick Lewis, my Israel, they're all on there. We've got Colby, Jorge on there. All the upcoming fights will be in there. You guys will see it all. Collab if you want, DM. And we've just done a MMA show with my new sponsor, Full Reptiles Collective's director. So the co-director, Dan Hardy, and mate Owen Oxley. So Owen Oxley was on the podcast yesterday. We had a nice long chat. So if you want to, and a little prediction for this fight.
Yeah, that was definitely a good listen. Always a good listen. Dogs are going nuts. So we'll get our quick picks and get out of here. Starting on the opener, Jeremiah Wells and Mike Mathetha. I have Jeremiah Wells rocking him and putting him away with some ground and pound. Yeah. Jeremiah Wells for you as well. Next fight at bantamweight, Douglas Da Silva de Andraj versus Sergey Marazov. I got Douglas Da Silva de Andraj making a difference in the stand-up and getting a decision. You're on Sergey, right?
Sergey Marazov in this. I think he's going to drown him.
Yep, and quite a few people are agreeing with you on that one. Next fight, AJ Dobson, Jacob Malkoon. I have AJ Dobson, just athletic and putting him away with the KO. You also do. Next fight, the striker grappler, striker Carlos Ulberg versus Fabio Charant. We both have Fabio Charant, not betting on it. Grappler wins. Alexander Hernandez versus Moycano. I'm on Moycano to take a decision win.
Yeah, and I like Alex Hernandez here as a kind of bulldog blitzy. This is his fight to prove himself.
All right, that's our second. That's our second disagreement of the night. Next, Ronnie Lawrence versus Mano Martinez. I fight much better than I think the odds indicate, but I got Ronnie Lawrence just able to take it everywhere and be a little better, as do you. Then William Knight versus Maxine Gretchen in maybe the worst fight of the night. I got William Knight very unconfidently here.
And I've got Maxine very unconfidently.
Excellent. Next fight, another sleeper, Alex Perez versus Matt Schnell. I'm going with Alex Perez here, but not bending at the odds especially.
I'm going Matt Schnell. Go with the underdog here. I like he's exciting.
Man, that is 4 disagreements now. I love it. Casey O'Neill versus Roxanne Modafferi. Casey O'Neill, our most confident pick of the night. Andrei Arlovsky versus Jared Vandera. Andrei Arlovsky, decision for us both. Bobby Green, Nazareth Hatpress. Bobby Green, decision for us both. Kyler Phillips, Marcelo Rojo. Kyler Phillips, decision, at least for me, or possibly finish, but Kyler Phillips.
Yeah, he'll finish him. Yeah.
And then Derrick Brunson, Candenier. I've got Jared Cannonier in this one.
Yeah, by decision for me as well, Cannonier.
Derrick Lewis, Tai Tuivasa. Derrick Lewis KO. Gotta stop overthinking.
First round KO, Derrick Lewis. Easy peasy.
It's so confusing. I don't know why I confuse myself so much with my overthinking. And then to edge it out, we both got Robert Whittaker by a decision to beat Israel Adesanya. Take that to the bank, the plus 230 underdog to cash it out. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. Visceral, Justin Villegas, Bunny, Steve, everybody else. Shout out to Lewis. Shout out to Full Reptile. Come sponsor me. Go ahead. You need a sponsor over in the States. Come on. I can rock some gear very well. But in all seriousness, go check out the LFA breakdown on the channel right now with Lucky Locks. Just recorded right before this. And now this is there. Going to have all the timestamps over and everything. Subscribe to Norton MMA for all the breakdowns over there, as well as a really great recap show he does every week. His MMA show is top-notch. More people need to be checking it out. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Enjoy the fight weekend. Showtime FC, LFA on Friday, followed by the UFC on Saturday. But enjoy the fights, everybody. Keep taking care of each other out there. And thank you so much for checking out the breakdown.